In this video, I will show you how to create a timeline. So when you're creating a visual that has a relationship over time, it's easy to do. This is the example that we're going to create. And the way we create this timeline is actually to use a table. So let me go to a new slide here and show you how we could do this. So I'm going to insert a table. When we insert a table, we get to select how many columns and rows we want to select. So we're only going to have 2 rows, but we're going to have how many columns we have for time periods. The example we're using here has 6 time periods. So I'm going to drag over 6 by 2, and it inserts that. Now the table just gets inserted in a default position. You can move it usually up to the top and make it a little wider, for example, because we want it to take up most of the slide. Now the default table, I'll just click outside so you can see, has lines, borders around all of the cells. But what we want to do is we want to remove the borders at the top of the top row and the bottom of the second row. So here's how we format the borders for cells. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to select the cells in the first row, and then I'm going to use this little drop down arrow in the top right to select which border I want to change. And the border I want to change here is the top border. So I select that top border, and then I use my line color to change it. Now if you don't want a line up there, which we don't, I'm going to set it to be transparent. And then similarly, I select all the cells in the second row, drop down. This time I want the bottom border to be changed, and I'm going to set that to be transparent. So I'll click outside. Now you see how that's changed. So if you want these vertical lines or that middle horizontal line to be a different color, for example, either lighter or darker, you can go ahead and change it the same way. So now we need to extend this second row down towards the bottom of the slide. So the way we do that is we put our cursor in one of these cells, and we move the cursor down to the bottom, and you see how it's the resizing cursor now, which has the horizontal line and the vertical arrow pointing up and down. So I'm just going to click and drag that down, and you notice now our timeline is exactly the way we want it to be. And because these are cells in a table, when I want to add text, I can select the cells and say, okay, so the heading I want to be, let's say, centered in each of them. And then I can go ahead and type in each of the month numbers, for example, if I wanted to do that. Now, because it's a table, one of the things that you get an advantage of is that if you accidentally, let's say, drag that and go, oh my gosh, now my time periods aren't equally spaced out. It's really important they're equally spaced out. How do I fix that? Well, what you can do is you can select all of the cells, and then under the table menu, you can say distribute the columns. And what that does is it resets it so that every column is equal width. And that's the easy way to do it within this application. You can then add on any shapes that you want or any text boxes. So for example, if I wanted to add a milestone, which will be a diamond, I can draw that diamond on, and then I can add a text box down below that says first milestone. And so you can now create all of the objects on top of the timeline, knowing the timeline is equally spaced. When you get to using a professional presentation program like PowerPoint, it's a similar technique in terms of the creation. You're still using a table. It's a little easier to do the formatting of borders in PowerPoint because it has better features in that area. But that's how you create a timeline on your slide.